What's up, man?
Hey, man, how are you doing?
Good. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's nice to finally, virtually meet you. I guess
Yeah.
is how I've been trying to describe it. I've been talking with people. I mean, I have a studio here. I have people in from my state, which is Arkansas, but I talked to people from all over. I had a guy from the UK on the other day, so it's been a lot of virtual meetings.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's been one of the positive outcomes of all this has been people are figuring out how to connect digitally more, and we've had a lot more conversations going on. Like, I mean, before this, a lot of people didn't know what Zoom was. Now I feel like we all are on it.
Yeah, like what happened to Skype?
Yeah. That came and went. I can't remember the last time I Skyped. I feel like Instagram and Facebook killed Skype. And then for some reason, Zoom came in and got them all. I feel like Google's got a target on Zoom, though, with that Google meeting.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one, too. But this is good because you can record it. And
it does. It does well. It's gotten a little better, I feel like, over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's had to because so many people are on it. But also the massive volume they had in the beginning, they had to upgrade their servers and all that stuff. But now the volume, it's decreased a little bit. So now we got the benefit of the upgrade and less volume. So yeah, it's better service.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, man, I started, along the same line of conversation, I started following you on social media. At some point we became friends on Facebook. I don't remember.
I don't know
how or through who.
Yeah.
But you were always posting the most motivational stuff. And I was like, I remember one time just sending you a message and I was like, hey, I don't know you, but you post great stuff. Thank you. But then
my wife makes fun. My wife, she'll be on the treadmill and she's going through Facebook. She's, oh, I like that. She's like, damn it was my husband again. She's like, he got me again. So I'm always catching her with my posts.
Yeah, man. But then I started kind of noticing you run an academy, you coach, you got successful fighters and all sorts of organizations, and you're doing like great stuff to go along with just posting motivational things on Facebook, which is what I talk about.
Yeah. So I started a project. We're probably like 3 years ago where I just wanted to see what would happen if I posted positive stuff every 15 minutes for 24 hours a day and see if my following would change. And it was this wild thing. I did it for 1.5 years and I stopped it about 3 years ago. And my followers, I'm close to maxing out the people that can follow me on Facebook and I literally was hand typing them. Like I would go on a spreadsheet and I just typed out random quotes, just thinking in my head, like positive stuff, motivation, so whatever, just stuff. And I'm getting it out. And I was just pounding it out. And so I used a spreadsheet. I uploaded it through Hootsuite. And I set it up for automatic. And I was doing a couple days at a time. So I would sit there and I would just think about the philosophy I believe in and what I coach and teach and whatever. And I was just doing that. And it became this exercise. And then I felt like I kind of ran its course with that. And then I just got into the habit of, constantly reposting positive stuff I run into, so whenever I'm on my phone, online, whatever, if I see something that resonates, I put it out there. Cause in today's times in particular, where there's just so much negative garbage, I've made a point. I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk religion. I just want to talk about human performance, relationships outside of the religion and politics zone. And just to, my whole thing is how do we be a better human, That's the whole point.
Yeah. So is that a philosophy that you feel like you picked up through training martial arts or outside of martial arts?
I mean, it's all connected. I think martial arts, when you do it long enough, you really do find yourself, and that becomes the better human part of it. being a competitor for a long time, I feel like those years it was all about me. And then when I let that side go and I really just focused on coaching and training and I started thinking about other people, there was an evolution in my understanding of how to communicate my martial arts. And then it became not just communicating it, but what's the value I want to provide with what I'm doing? You know, do I just want to create champions? Do I want to create better people? Do I want to create all of it? You know, but just over time, you just got to think it through. And just, I got to a place where, yeah, being a better human is just the simple thing. When you're done training with me at some point, you move on, you don't want to train anymore, you can't, you've got another interest, whatever. I just hope you look back at the time you spent with me and you feel like you're a better person for it. And it doesn't matter if you're a professional fighter, you know, doctor, lawyer, school teacher, student, doesn't matter. You know, we all train together, we all do our thing, but when time's done, I just want you to look back and I want you to feel like, okay, I'm better for the time I spent there with him. Mm-hmm. It's that simple.
Yeah. Great, man. That's a positive outlook for sure. I didn't get into train martial arts until I was 19. I'm 33 now. So like it's been a constant facet of my life for my entire adult life. And now my wife and I own an academy in Central Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And we have about 300 students. So it's, but it's been a constant growing process for me. And I've accrued so many values derived from lessons that just from things I've encountered with people on the mats, off the mats, at competitions, competing. It's been a wild ride, but it's definitely forged me, I believe, into a better person, you know?
Yeah, it can go multiple ways. I mean, I know a lot of people that I don't respect in the business, and I know a lot of people that I do. With leadership comes power to a degree if you want to turn it into that. And there are some people that were flawed getting into it, and they were never really groomed to be leaders, and they use that power for their own self-gratification. And then you've got people that take leadership as a responsibility where it's not necessarily power as much as a position. And that position is what people are coming to get something. My whole thing is, if we don't have a mutually beneficial trade, our relationship's just not going to work. So for me as an instructor, okay, I'm going to backtrack that real quick. So before, when I was a competitor, I felt like everybody didn't need to know I'm a fighter. I'm not just a coach. Now I'm 46 years old. I haven't fought. I did my retirement fight when I was 40, but I hadn't fought a lot before that. But it's been a good 6 years since I've competed. And people come in and they're like, oh, you fought? Like they don't know. And I feel like, okay, you're coming to Killer Bee Combat Sports, not to see me, Bryan Wright, former fighter, whatever. You're coming to Killer Bee because the philosophy is sound. It provides a service that you want. And it's my job to fulfill your needs in a way that's right for you. And when that changes, then you'll move on. This is any service business. There's nothing that says you have to be a part of this. There's nothing that says once you join up, you have to do what I tell you to do forever. You know, it's a give and take. I have to provide what it is that I provide in a way that provides value to you, and then you'll pay me for that service and the relationship will go on. That's why a lot of times when people talk about family in martial arts, I get a little weirded out because I'm like, well, I don't get kicked out of my family if I stop giving my mom money. I don't give my mom money to be a member of the family, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is a business at the base. Like your students stop paying, your business goes away, and that family just went away. So it's a weird balance. We have familiar relationships with our students. We have strong bonds. I have stronger bonds with most of my guys than I would some people that are blood to me because, you know, we've done so much together. You know, Karl Roberson is a fighter I trained as a UFC fighter. He started off as a kid walking off the street. Now he's at the UFC. We've been together for 10 years. And, you know, our bond is family as you can call it because of what we've done for each other. That's different. That's 10 years, give and take, mutually beneficial situation, getting beyond the money and really caring about each other as humans. But that developed over time. I can't have that with every member in the school. And, we can never lose sight of the fact that, at the end of the day, it's a business. We have to take care of our people. If we take care of people, they'll take care of us, which gives us the ability to take care of our own families and pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. So it's a weird thing. And I think it just takes time to really understand how it all fits together. When I was young, I totally didn't understand any of this stuff, and I screwed it up horribly for a very long time. I readily admit that. I think I was a jerk off until I was 40, and some people still think I'm a jerk off. So whatever.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, man, it's, that's, you bring up a lot of great points. I kind of feel like there's some sort of, I've been talking with a few people about this. It's like some of those sort of, traits, like I see getting passed down sort of that are like cultish, right? Like
100%.
They get passed down from, or like you mentioned with the power play versus leadership, that getting kind of passed down from one gym to another. You get like associations. It kind of will spring up and it just is passed on.
Well, you know what, too? So I have a lot of international experience, and the one thing from traveling and going, to the source of a lot of information is you find out that the misinterpretation of the ideas is where a lot of it comes from, especially it's very difficult to you can't take an Eastern philosophy literally and apply it in a Western setting. And that's where a lot of the problems became. So a lot of the cultish stuff came out of the structure and the terminology that's used in a lot of the Asian arts, and people created. So like the Japanese language, it's a figurative language in a lot of ways. Like, so take one punch, one kill. Masayama made that famous with Kyokushin. He said one punch, one kill. He didn't mean you're going to learn how to punch and kill somebody with one punch. He took that from swordsmanship, where it was 1/1 kill. He took that idea. That it's the same thing from Western, where we say is shoot for the stars and hopefully you'll land on the moon. That's what he meant. He didn't mean keep punching a rock until your hand becomes a deadly weapon. Yes, your hand could become a deadly weapon, but again, the idea was not learn how to kill people in one punch. It was take this concept of perfection and strive for it every day. But the caveat that they don't throw in is that you're supposed to also understand you're never going to achieve it, but it doesn't mean you stop trying to achieve it. That's the beauty of that. But we lose that in translation a lot of times. So you get people that haven't gone deep enough into the philosophy of their art, or they haven't gone deep enough into where these ideas are coming from. And then they apply a Western literal translation to it. And then they create a cult around ideas that are hollow ideas. And for me, I came up in karate, and it was when I was a kid, it was like when you became a brown belt, it was when you started to get cocky and you really started to abuse the people below you, because that's what happened to you. And it's the same thing I see happening in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu circles a lot too. Yeah. So you get this cycle of violence where as a white belt, you're getting beat up and they're telling you it's good for you. You're learning a lesson. Have faith. It'll all work out. No, it doesn't. It's not supposed to work that way. You're supposed to be taught. The belts are supposed to be there as a marker, not as more and more permission to beat up people below you. And that's why my thing is I got rid of belts. I got rid of that rank and structure kind of situation in my facility. And my whole thing is on an individual level, if we're better each day, that's all that really matters. And we're only as fast as the slowest person. We're only as strong as the weakest person. And you've got to, instead of standing on the shoulders of the people below you, you have to reach down and pick them up. So I get every once in a while, we'll get on the mat, we're training, and you see somebody that's got a high level of skill, someone with a lower level of skill. I put them together. People are like, well, you're telling that guy he's got to give up his workout today. And I'm like, you know what? If he gives up a couple rounds to help that guy get better today, he's going to have a strong training partner who's going to push him tomorrow. And now all of a sudden, instead of having one guy who's better than everyone, we've got a rising tide of talent that's constantly challenging and pushing. Now, all of a sudden, the entire room is better. It's not just one guy standing above. The object's not to be the best in the room. The object's to be the best, period. So we want to be able to take on all comers, not just the guys in the room with us. And that's where it gets lost. And that's where you see a lot of competitive gyms too. You know, you'll get a couple professional fighters who, they beat up everybody in the room, but then they'll struggle in their own careers. And they're like, I don't understand. I'm better than everyone else in the room. Well, your room's not that strong because you never helped it get stronger. You just beat it up.
Oh man, that's so. I got to ask about like, what's the sparring culture in your gym like?
I have a really sound philosophy. It's really simple. You give what you get what you give. That's it. So if you push me, I'm pushing back. And I also try and explain to guys that the main thing is you have to let the ego go, and you have to be a man about this, an adult about it. I can't say this man. I have a lot of women in the gym too that actually fight, but you have to be an adult about this. Meaning, if someone's really being a jerk off and pushing too hard, instead of trying to crush them, there's a time to crush them. We all know that. If you're in the gym, every once in a while, there's a whooping that has to be handed out. But if you see that is not going to go across as a positive, sometimes you have to step back and say, yo, stop, slow it down, chill. Like, take a deep breath. You can't win sparring. Sparring is when we try to do things. It's where we go to get better. It's not where we go to win the round or beat somebody. We have to be challenging ourselves to be better. Oh, my son's peeking in right in the corner.
I saw him, yeah.
So my boys are wreaking havoc in the background here. But yeah, so my whole thing with sparring, it's we have to remove the ego as much as possible so we can go as hard as possible without getting hurt. I mean, I have people at the highest level. I mean, I have 2 people in Bellator and 1 in the UFC right now, and so I'm not talking about a philosophy that doesn't work. I mean, our philosophy works because you got to look at it like we're NASCAR. You are the car. If your car is broken down on race day and it can't go as fast as it can go because you've been abusive to it, you're not going to win the race. So we have to train day in and day out in a way that allows us to get up tomorrow, go to school, go to work, or train again. Like, we have to do this every day. So we have to have a professional approach to it. An amateur looks at it as a hobby and doesn't care. You get hurt, I can't come to class, who cares? But for those of us that make a living doing this, we have to be able to do this day in and day out. Mm-hmm. So sure, do we push limits? Do we take risk? Absolutely, you have to. It's the fight game. But, 80 to 90% of the time, we have to stay in a zone where, yeah, we're safe and progressive and able to get up again tomorrow and keep on forging ahead. So when we show up on fight day, you're never going to be 100% because it's contact sport, but you want to be as close to 100% as possible. So that's simple. And we spar, little gloves, we go. Like, we go. Like, people don't like to come and spar with us a lot of times because they think we go too hard. But our injury rate is so minimal because there's a progression to it. There's levels to it. And if you're respectful of the levels mesh. And then we can go at a high level and we don't have to risk so much.
Is a difference in that level, like when you're in fight camp versus out fight camp? Are you guys kind of always running fight camps with as many fighters as you have right now?
I am perpetually in fight camp. I mean, it's this crazy. I'm going to Bellator tomorrow. I've got Shawn fighting on Thursday night. I'll be back on Friday. I literally have to get back as early as I can Friday because I got to get back in the gym because I got Karl Roberson preparing for a UFC fight. I can't mention dates or opponents or any of that just yet, but he's in camp right now. I've got DeAnna Bennett, just fought in Bellator. She's going to be fighting again in December. So she's like pre-camp. So I've got people at different points of their camps at all times, but I always have someone with a fight coming up. I'm always 2 weeks out from something. It's just the nature of the beast in this game. But when I say there's levels, I mean, it, like, there's physical levels to this. When you've been doing this a certain amount of time, there's a level of understanding that allows you to operate at a higher level. And then, you got guys that start out, they really don't know what they're doing. And then they start to think they do, but they still really don't. And they're very dangerous at that point. And then you got it where, okay, they get humbled a little bit. They figure it out. It's that weird climbing the mountain. And at different points, guys have the ability to do different things in different ways. And so that's the trick is, how do you get a room full of people to respect the different levels, still thinking, how do I drive forward, but understand the differences? So prime example, so I'll take somebody who's a pro fighter with a lot of experience who can pretty much handle the person they're with. What I try and get them to do is, instead of going out there and just being themselves and hammering this poor guy, say, okay, you're going with a guy who's never sparred before. What do you do? All right, I'm going to tell this guy to throw punches and I'm going to try and move my head more today. I'm not going to let this guy touch me, or I'm going to use my footwork more than I would, or whatever. Just say, okay, let me work on a very specific skill that allows this guy to try and get comfortable moving with somebody, and I'm not going to hurt him. Simple as that. Like if I'm somebody who likes to punch, well, maybe I'm going to try and kick more this round. If someone that has bad head movement, well, I'll take this opportunity. Okay, I can move my head because the risk isn't that great. Just challenge yourself. Limit what you can use and still challenge yourself. When I was teaching kids classes a lot, when I was younger, I was fighting. I didn't have a lot of sparring partners. I used to do that in my kids class. I literally circle them all up and I'd fight them all. And people were like, why do you have such good footwork? I was like, because I've got a dozen 10-year-olds that are super fast and crazy, and you can't tell which way they're going to go. And I basically play tag with them every day. So, yeah, my footwork was really good. You can learn from anything.
Yeah. Oh, man, I need to start teaching kids again.
Yeah, kids are a huge value because the thing with them is you have to conform to them. And that's what makes a good teacher versus a bad teacher, is when you think people have to conform to you. No. Adults adults are more malleable that way, but kids are kids. You have to break through to them. So you really learn how to take, like, say you have concept A and you learn how to deliver it 100 different ways because you have to get it through to them. So you learn how to be a better communicator, which means you have to understand your art more fully. Kids are like the best test of, do you know what you do or not? Because you got to be able to communicate it to them in an effective way.
Yeah, man, we have a huge kids program here, and I do teach kids a couple of days, but it's jiu-jitsu, but we have striking as well, and it's my wife does a fantastic job, and we have some great assistants, but it is for 6 years, I think I taught every one of the kids' classes.
That's a grind, man. It's a grind.
Yeah, those are the days.
Man, I did that for 20 years, man. Not that long. 15 years I was teaching all the kids classes. I was teaching kids class 5-6 days a week. I had a kids program with 100 kids in it. Then I stopped teaching kids for a couple of years. Now I've got a kids program coming back, and it's an MMA program, so I split it up. So they get striking, they get wrestling, they get jiu-jitsu, a little bit of everything. Actually, for their attention spans, I find it keeps it moving a little bit quicker for them, having the different skill sets to focus on. There's the one side of it where you're like, am I watering it down because I'm teaching them the different things? But then the other side of it is, if you can link it all together, and if you have a philosophy that makes it all make sense, meaning body mechanics stay the same throughout. If you have continuity somewhere, I find that's what keeps it together and it doesn't get too watered down, and it keeps them going, keeps them motivated. So I actually, my son, my 7-year-old, started doing it. That was the reason it kind of got me going with kids classes again, because it's time for me to hand it off to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got an academy that has a lot of fighters in it, right?
I would say a lot. I mean, I don't have
like a dozen,
the largest fight team. I mean, between amateurs and professionals, you're looking 15, 16 people. On a high level, I've got four pros right now. 3 of them are in big shows. One of them's flirting with a big show right now. So it's good. I'm not complaining at all. I have a very solid program right now.
Okay, so you have that. Like, what about like the culture in your gym with that versus, do you have a lot of people that train with you guys for just a hobby?
Yeah, 99.9% of my membership will never compete. It's completely fine with me. It's almost 2 different hats I wear. I have my professional coaching side, and then I would say the recreational coaching side. I don't treat it recreationally. I treat it professionally. What's cool with us is that the pro side of it keeps us really on the cutting edge of where we need to be. What's happening right now is what we're involved with in the world. So that trickles down to my members. So they feel like they're a part of something that's constantly changing and evolving and growing, which is cool. So you can come into my class on a Tuesday night. You come into my kickboxing class on Tuesday. You'll have everything from people that are here with us for days to UFC fighters on my mat that are taking my class because the fundamentals are sound. So it's a wide range, and I look at it like fantasy camp to a lot of people that has a real value to it. Like you could watch UFC and then come in and train the different things that you're seeing on there. Like I taught a particular armbar the other day, and what's her face? Oh my God. Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah.
Got that armbar the other day.
She had her foot caught in, yeah.
I literally taught the setup from mount where she sliced the bicep and then transition in the armbar. I literally taught that the day before. So my DMs on my Instagram, I had like 50 people like, oh my God, you showed us that yesterday. I can't believe she just pulled that off. I was like, yeah, that was pretty cool to just real time for them to have that. That was just one of those weird coincidences. But having moments like that is always fun, and it's cool, and it's what keeps people coming back because they're like, we feel like we're a part of something that is current.
So do you base like your class plans on that, or do you have like a curriculum structure, or what's your approach with that?
I definitely have, I have a curriculum, but yeah, obviously you have to have flexibility in terms of how you present it based on the people you have in front of you at the given time. So I have my attitude about teaching people is what I call general to specific. Michelangelo said that when he would carve a sculpture, he would give him like a block of marble, and he wouldn't turn that marble into a sculpture. He felt like the sculpture was in the marble and he was just chipping away the excess layers. So for me, when I look at teaching, I feel like who they need to be is there. And I'm not so much giving them stuff as much as chipping away the layers so that they can discover it within them. So I start off general and get them moving, and I get their confidence up, and I get them to understand, okay, this is how my body's working again. This is how I shift. This is how I do whatever. This is up and down. This is how I'm responding. And it's more of a process of pulling it out instead of jamming it in. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So so I don't have beginner class, it's advanced class, whatever. We just have class. So we all train the same way, but what's expected of you is different. And because, again, the attitude in which I've trained everybody to respect the new guy, like I tell everybody all the time, I see a guy get frustrated. I'm like, dude, remember when you were him? So shut up and respect that. Be for him what you wanted that first day. And that kind of keeps us going where, again, we're pulling people forward. So we could all work on the same skills in a given day, but the speed in which people are doing it, the level of understanding, it's varied and all over the place. Yeah. But that's okay. That's the process. I tell everybody on the first day, I'm like, do you feel good? And they're like, I'm so frustrated. I'm just like, good. Have you ever done anything right the first time? I sure haven't. Like, you're supposed to be an idiot today.
Yeah. That's, I'd use those same kind of reminders. Man, that's a mind-blowing metaphor about the sculpture. I'm going to steal that.
Go for it.
Man,
like, so I have a fine arts background, so I have these weird metaphors I pull out of my arts background.
Well, next time I teach, I teach history at a college nearby. So next time I go through Civ 2 and the Renaissance, I'll give you a nod.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, there are certain things that people say in times, and like, it just
it translates.
I'm gonna give you a weird one. All right. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast yesterday, and he was talking to somebody about aliens. So it's not about aliens. There was no like, oh my God, I believe in aliens I'm gonna talk about. But I'm sitting here and they're talking about how there was this ship, and then they start talking about propulsion systems, and they were saying this ship couldn't be from our technology because our propulsion systems are reverse. Basically, you have a rocket that propels you, and you have to have like a rocket in the front to like slow you down. So like when we have a spaceship, it has different things around it that'll push one way, push the other. Where this ship, they're saying its ability to move was radiating from the center. And I was struggling with a guy to get him to understand how not to lean into his jab so much yesterday. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. His hips were off and he didn't have control, and he couldn't go fast enough because he's self-propelling And then he didn't have the rock to the front to stop him. And I just got into this weird space, and it like made sense. I was like, okay, I got to pull him back to his center. I got to ground him a little bit more. And so when he moves, he's got to move more from his center. He's got to use his feet more, stop dragging, start pushing. Like it all started to make sense off of this weird thing I was listening to. So I was laughing. I told him too, I was like, I can believe where I figured your problem out, but you just got to understand that there's opportunity to understand things everywhere. And that's where there's a Zen saying that I really believe. It says, if you have the ability to do one thing well, you now have the skills to do everything well, because it's the same process, no matter what it is we're doing. It's different physical skills, but the process is the same. So like you're good at it. Like, so you're a history teacher. Yes. The same skill set you use to teach history is the same skill set you use to teach jiu-jitsu. The same skill set you used to get a teaching degree is the same skill set you use to get your rank in jiu-jitsu. It's the same. There's no difference.
Yeah. I mean, the methods are like, I almost, I approach them almost exactly the same way as a student. You know what I'm saying? When I'm learning, it's the same. I categorize it the same. I document it the same.
Success is success. It's the same thing. It's just different arenas, different groupings of information, but it's the same process, because we're humans. We function a particular way. We can only do things well one way, you know? So so when I tell a fighter, I say this to every fighter. You could ask them, anybody there fought for me. One of the last things I say to you before you walk into the ring or the cage or whatever is I say, where's the most comfortable place you do this? And they're all like, well, in the gym, of course. And I'm like, okay, so what's the difference between this cage, wherever we are in the world, and the mat which we train back home? There's none. If this guy walked into your living room and tried to push you around, you wouldn't hesitate to put him down. Why are you going to hesitate now? If the guy walked in the gym off the street and wanted to spar, would you have any hesitation locking horns with him? No. So what's the difference now? You know, it's the same, but it's all we allow ourselves to get caught up in the idea that it's different, but it's not. It's just you and another human being the same way it's you and another human being in other scenarios. So take yourself, put yourself in the one place that you find yourself most successful, and just keep repeating that process over and over and over again. You know, so that's what I'm saying. Like, even with someone like yourself, where say you're struggling at your jiu-jitsu, well, maybe you have to go and look at how you're approaching history and apply that to jiu-jitsu and find some parity on it. Just apply what you're doing well in life to where you're struggling, and trust me, you won't be struggling as hard anymore.
I've been talking about this a lot, like just in conversation and on the podcast. Like I did that. I've used that same approach with guitar, right? Mm-hmm. So I played guitar I started playing guitar when I was in junior high. I played the bass, and I played in the church band. That was what I did. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of graduated to playing guitar. The last couple of years I was in high school for them. And then I played guitar after high school. So I played like for 20 years. I played the guitar. I've owned guitars. Well, then I was like, well, man, I'm going to up my game. I started taking lessons. I have an app on my phone. I hired a teacher. I've taken the master class with Tom Morello online, right? So but all I did is like, I'm like, man, I love watching history documentaries. I bet that Tom Morello masterclass. And then, bam, there's a Ken Burns masterclass about documentary filmmaking for history on there. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the same method. It really, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, why do we have to act like something's different just because we saw it on TV or somebody told us it was hard one day? Like, we can't allow other people's roadblocks to become our own. If we want to do something, do it. And if you're struggling, we'll figure out how you've overcome struggle before and apply that to this. You have the ability to overcome. You proved it. You're sitting here right now. You're still breathing. You're still talking. There's no way you haven't had a struggle in your life. We all do. So just to understand how have we gotten through the greatest struggles, apply that process to everything. And again, we're going to be better off for it. And now we'll have, and then you'll overcome something. And if you recognize that, you respect it, get some confidence, you get some more knowledge, more understanding. And, we just get better and better at solving problems, because that's all being human is we just go from problem to problem. And, we deal with tempering ourselves. We have to get ourselves out of the way and actually deal with the problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, so speaking of that, like, this is something I wanted to chat with you about, just like with struggle and problem solving is just like looking, just kind of following you and like reading a little bit on your website and stuff, about what, and you mentioning your schedule here earlier. Seems like you got a lot going on, right? I do too. Like, I do too. I'm engaged in a lot of different ways. This podcast, a history job, running the gym that I own. But one thing that's always a struggle for me is like, there's a time when we went to competitions every single weekend, right?
Yeah.
And now it's just such a struggle to leave town, because it's like running the gym is such a big activity in life. And I have a lot of people that are assistant instructors here and to help, but like, what are some things that you're doing when, man, you're burning the roads up, but you're still running a real successful program?
You know what, man? Honestly, the hardest part for me is my kids. I got a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's my kids. That's my thing. I tell everybody all the time. I say, don't ever ask me to do something I can't come home and justify this expenditure of time to my wife. Like, and it's not saying that she's the boss, but I never want to come back and disrespect my family and say, yeah, I'm going to go do this frivolous thing and I'm going to put a lot of pressure on you and it's going to cost us. So the decisions I make have to be ones that we all agree are going to be long-term beneficial situations for the family. That's my first and foremost. So by coming at it from that allows me to make decisions that are long-term beneficial all the way through, because I value my wife and my kids more than anything. And I'm not screwing that up. I don't care if it's the biggest fight in the world, but the wrong fight for me, I'm just not going, So the fights that I go to are the fights where I only work with people that I feel like we have a long-term positive situation for all of us, where we're all going to be better off for it. This is not a mercenary money thing. The money in MMA is good at certain levels. It's horrendous at others. I mean, I could go away for 2 weeks and make $500, and then I can go away and I can make 50,000 depending upon the level of the fight it's at. But I'll take $500 for a couple of years, knowing that the big one's coming. I mean, you got to invest that way. But again, that's where the importance of who you work with and how you work with them and it's that relationship situation again, where it's like, I have to work with people. It's not necessarily that I can trust them. There is a level of trust, but I have to know that I can actually do something good with them and it's going to pay off. So if I have to go away for a week, like I'm going away because COVID screwed everything up. Usually on a fight, so Teed's fighting on Thursday night. Without COVID, I would have shown up on Tuesday night late. I'd be home Friday morning. Now, because of COVID, I'm 7 to 10 days every fight because I got to get tested. I have to pass the test. Then it's crazy. They bring us in, they put us in a bubble, can't do anything. So there's a lot going on. COVID's like blowing the whole process apart. So yeah, like I'm going away for 7 to 10 days at a clip. Gym's got to survive. My family's got to survive. Like we all have to do what we have to do. But I think I've made enough good choices as of late with the people around me that it just allows all this to happen. The enthusiasm in the gym allows this to happen. The benefit of these fights for my family with what it does for promoting our brand, solidifying our name, money that we get paid for it, it all just works itself out. So, but again, my base and everything is I got to be able to come home and tell my wife, like, this is good for us. And she has to agree with it because it's her, it's me, it's our kids. That's what matters most. I'd walk away from my gym. I say this, I don't say this lightly. I'm saying this heavily. I would walk away from my gym tomorrow if my wife said it was having a negative impact on my kids or her, because my family's my priority. So one's my job, one's my life. It's different, Yeah. And that's the way I look at it. So kids changed everything. Before kids, I would have burned every relationship I had to win something. Now I don't really care. I want to win now not because I want to win. I want to win because I feel like it justifies the skill set and the work that my people are putting in. It's different.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
what are, you've mentioned a lot of like your philosophies, some mindsets, some just like some psychology behind what you do. Like what about, and even some of your sparring approaches, but like, what about some of your like, training methodologies? Like what are some things about your recipe that you've put together for success, like in the gym, like when you're working with people?
Well, I don't have a cookie cutter method. I have a base system of work. Like if you have nothing, we're going to start at a particular spot and move forward. For MMA purposes, if you're coming to me and you're saying, look, I've never done this before and I want to do MMA, I don't start on the ground. I start on my feet because all fights start on the feet. I'm in jiu-jitsu country, man. I'm in New Jersey. You know how many Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys are in my area?
Yeah,
It's
sure,
insane.
For sure.
So I'm friends with Henzo and Ricardo Almeida and stuff, and they all have like, a dozen academies within, 15 miles of my space. We have so many. New Jersey, we just so smashed population wise and academy wise. I mean, I'm not kidding. I probably have martial arts school wise within 20 miles of my location, 115, 120 schools. Yeah.
Wow.
For MMA, legitimate MMA, there's only maybe a dozen of us.
Yeah.
But in terms of like martial arts in general, it's just, but again, our population's insane too. So we have a very densely populated state. I don't really care what's going on around me. That's fine. I do what I do. They do what they do. It's all good. But I have a lot of people around me that are Brazilian jiu-jitsu minded where they always like, 80% of the fights go to the ground. And I'm like, that's nice, but 100% of them start on their feet. So we're going to start on our feet. So we start off footwork, moving with somebody, working on your strength and conditioning also, because if you don't have a strong enough engine to support the work's only going to last so long. So you've got to be in shape. You've got to understand how to deal with adversity. So we got to start working on like, are you thinking about this right? Are you mentally tough enough to keep doing this? That sounds more extreme than it is, but it's really just reinforcing the idea of like, yeah, it's going to suck, but that's the process and you're going to be better for it. Start on the feet. Then we start progressing, a little bit of clinch work. Then we start working on takedowns. Then we start positioning. Then we start submissions. And then we start the defense. And, so we start up, work our way down. And then when you kind of got that flow, then we start working it back up again. So if you get taken down, how do you get back up? If you're on your back and you're working, how do you get off your back? How do you get on your feet? How do you flow back and forth through it all? It takes a long time to get that in the beginning. So I say we're a mixed martial arts school, but before you mix the arts, you got to learn the arts. So we compartmentalize it. Start off, get your kickboxing right, get your boxing right, get your wrestling right, get your jiu-jitsu right. Then we'll start saying, okay, now you're kickboxing with takedowns. Now you're doing kickboxing with takedowns to positions. Then you're going from positions to submissions. Then sometimes we even start like, okay, we're going to start. You're on your back. This guy's on top. Now go from here. If you can get up, you can go from up. A lot of situational challenging stuff. So I constantly put people in spots where teach you how to maximize your skill sets. Then we take them away and say, how do you survive without what you're most comfortable with? And it's constantly just challenging people to understand how to survive all the different ranges of what we do. So this methodology requires, I want to say a heavy hand, but it's not, I don't mean that in a negative way, just meaning I really have to understand you and what you need, because situational drilling is only good if they're the situations that you need to be drilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you're good at arm bars and all you do is arm bars, what's going to happen? Like, so, okay. I was talking about this last night. You only start on your knees, and then guys are like, literally look like dogs with a chew toy, and they never really get anywhere. And they're just like, I want to get my position. And it never goes anywhere. And I'm like, all right, it was a 5-minute round. You spent 3 minutes of it trying to wrestle with each other to see where it's going to start. And you didn't really start until you had about 2 minutes, 30 seconds left. So let's get beyond that, kind of accept the fact that we're on the ground already. Let's not go to our favorite place. Let's go to wherever it is. And then can you get to your favorite place? So if you like arm bars, from top, we'll flop to your back and say, hey, can you get to top? Because you don't want to just be your best in the best situation. You want to be your best in every situation. So you want to be able to hit what you hit from everywhere, not just that one place. And if you don't get it, you're screwed, you know? So it's having that playful attitude where it's like, all right, let's challenge this. Let's challenge my skill set. Can I do this? Not just when I want, like not just where I'm comfortable, but from anywhere. Can I make uncomfortable comfortable? That's, I think, the key to success in everything. Once you accept the fact that uncomfortable is actually a comfortable place where you can actually learn and challenge and figure stuff out, then you just win. Now you're a winner. Like when uncomfortable is your happy place, you're good. Because if you're avoiding it, you're never gonna struggle, which means you're never gonna be prepared for when the fight actually comes.
So are all your classes like this, MMA oriented? Do you have like a jiu-jitsu program or anything like that also?
So that's where I say we have to learn the arts before we mix them. So we have a kickboxing program. We have a jiu-jitsu program. We have the wrestling and the boxing are not considered, like I don't have a boxing program, but we work boxing into the kickboxing program. We work wrestling into the jiu-jitsu program. So I have Jimmy Lawson. Jimmy Lawson was Division I All-American, 3-time New Jersey State champ in wrestling. Jimmy's a stud wrestler. He fights for me. And he runs practice on Wednesday nights for me with jiu-jitsu. He takes the last half of class and like he'll run wrestling drills for everybody on that, which is awesome to have access to that kind of experience. So, you know, we touch on all the bases, but we definitely have, like, if you only want to strike, you're fine. If you only want to do jiu-jitsu, you're fine. You don't have to do MMA. You know, it's funny. 90% of people come in, they say want to do MMA, and they end up doing kickboxing anyway. Like, because wrestling and groundwork is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I see that. Like we have a USA boxing program. We have a big kickboxing program, but we also like a ton. I have over 100 people that do fitness kickboxing, where it's just like a heavy bag cardio workout. But then we have more a class like what you're talking about, where it's boxing combos, tie pads, clinch work, stuff like that, right? And then we do gi and no gi jiu-jitsu also through the week.
Yeah, I do no gi only. I don't do gi.
Yeah.
My guys, I send them to gi. They go to Dante Rivera's.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, because he's not far from me. He's like 15 minutes away from me. We consider ourselves like cousins at this point. A lot of his guys come to me for striking. A lot of my guys go to him for gi jiu-jitsu. Guys come to me from him to like, how do I link it all together? So like understanding how the different components fit is probably my greatest strength. The fitness kickboxing, I've tried it. I don't know why, but it never works for me. I think it's because I don't know. I think I don't really believe in the idea of a fitness kickboxing class in my own head. So it's hard for me to, I think, promote it. I think my disdain for it comes through. But I feel like, so I understand the idea of fitness kickboxing done a particular way, because I think for all intents and purposes, my kickboxing program really is a fitness kickboxing program for the majority of the members. The difference is that versus me and say a cardio kickboxing program is that we have technique involved. And I think that when you focus on the technique, there's two benefits to it. One, it actually works. Two, it's safer. And then there's the third side of it is that when you have to focus on the technique, you actually physically will go harder without realizing you're going harder, because you're not just focusing on the output, you're focusing on the input from the instructor and the technical output, and the physical output kind of just is there sometimes. Mm-hmm. So you might throw 100 kicks because you're not thinking about being tired. You're thinking about, am I doing it right? Where if you were just thinking about physically, okay, I have to hit it as many times as I can, you might quit at 50 because, gee, my heart rate's up, you know, because the challenge is different. When you're bringing more components in, I find that we go further and we have a greater benefit. So that's why I've tried to do like purely a fitness thing, not focus so much on the technique, but then I always come back to them like, I can't allow punches like that in my presence without getting pissed off. So I have to like clean it up.
Yeah.
You know? That's just the way.
Yeah. No, I feel you for sure. And that's something like we were just talking about with our instructors the other day is like, it's not a technique class, but like here are the base level things we want you to yell at them at all times. Like, you know how like if you were in a boot camp, somebody they'd have commands for your push-ups and your squats and like just something you'd learn in personal training. Like if you're coaching people, like I just kind of have those same sort of things that I want our instructors to do, like with their punches, with their kicks, with their knees, with their elbows. And it's the core things I would tell anybody doing boxing or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's more like straight punches, don't raise your elbow, you know, just like yelling at people and getting them pumped up. But
but the thing about it too is the just from a structural situation, if somebody's throwing punches and they're flaring their elbows and stuff, they're going to have injuries over the long haul. So I would rather them do it right and be physically safe than just being like, let me just placate them, keep them happy and keep them paying. Well, they're not going to be paying that long and they're going to hate you for the injury you gave them. So it's like safety first, guys. And that's why technique matters. When you throw a proper punch, you can hit hard repeatedly with minimal damage. A lot of these people wailing away, hitting with the wrong part of their hand, throwing funny shoulder shots, you know. I've seen people blow shoulders out, blow knees, bad necks, bad backs. And I'm like, yeah, because you're just whacking away and nobody's keeping you accountable. You know, you've got to be accountable. That's really important. I got to move over. The sun's starting to come through.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so have you ever done like an instructional or anything? Do you provide any sort of like digital resources for your students?
Yeah. So I started an online training academy, KillerB.online, during the COVID situation. And my WordPress site I built it on has been slowly collapsing on itself. So I'm switching to another platform. The plugins are just not interacting well. And a lot of my videos, I started to struggle. I had a minute where it was good. I had a lot of people logging in and we're doing workouts at home. I did all the basics on my striking program, how to throw proper punches, how to move your feet, slipping, moving. I have a whole bunch of bag workouts up where you can literally start the video, hop on the bag, and you literally can do a 10-round workout with me at home kind of thing. Started doing strength and conditioning programs for people. I have a database of all this different strength and conditioning moves we do. So if you want to say push up, you would click on push up and the video pops up and it shows you how to do it. Like all the different motions we do, we create a database for that. A couple instructionals on wrestling and jiu-jitsu. We're going deeper on that. So it's an evolving project. But ultimately, we want to have Killer Bee Online to be a more robust situation where we have our podcast will go there. Because I do a podcast with the gym too. It's called The Hive. So we have the Hive podcast. I write a lot, so I put my writings up there too. Interviews with our fighters. The free fights you can find online, we kind of collected them all in one space. Some of our pro practices. So doing a lot of different things to get content out there. I think it's important in today's day and age too, that, we have more digital resources. One of the cool things is that people that signed up for Killer Bee Online and plus are in the school, they'll take class and then they have questions. They'll go online and they'll look up the combo we did in class and they can get all the details, which is cool. So it's just a great resource for students, not just people that can't come to us. And then the other one is I had this idea and I'm actually implementing it now is if you want to have someone give you another opinion, if you're a fighter with a fight coming up and you want someone to look at your opponent and to analyze, give you kind of like what we feel are the keys to success for this person, we'll watch your fights, we'll watch their fights and give you a report on how we feel the matchup would be and the things you need to focus on. So we could be kind of a remote coach for you.
Nice. Yeah. That's a good service for sure. Because I mean, game planning is, I think, because of video and digital content, something that you can do much more these days.
Yep.
So much more available.
Yeah. So the more I started to play with stuff, the more I started to think about different opportunities we could have. And that's where like the remote coach came. And a lot of that too is just, I have a ton of friends in the business and we sit around and we talk about stuff a lot. And most of the guys I'm friends with, their egos are not so big. So we really are open to the idea of sharing. Like Jamie Crowder is the head instructor of Renzo Gracie New York City for their MMA team. And he'll hit me up. I mean, he's changed my life with a sentence occasionally. And and I showed, like, he came down and I was like, he was struggling during COVID, can't make a living, academy's closed. I said, come down, do a seminar with my guys. Let's make some money for you. So he came down, did his thing, a couple nuggets he threw out there. I was like, wow, I don't think I'm ever gonna forget those. I think those are permanent parts of my curriculum now. And then I played around with him and I showed him a couple things. And then he was like, yo, I did that thing you showed me. And it really worked. And I think I'm going to use it with this guy who's fighting that guy. And I was like, okay, cool. So it's like the exchanging of information it's elevating our games. And that's where a lot of it too is where I was saying with the coach side, they're asking me like, hey, what do you think? So-and-so's fighting so-and-so. What do you think? Here's what we're doing. What's your opinion? I do the same thing, because if you can let go of your ego and you can open yourself up to somebody else's ideas, you never know where it could go. It might be one thing, or it could be an avalanche of things. It could change your direction for the better. There's always opportunity and information. We always got to keep ourselves open to that. We can't ever get to that point where we think we're too big to listen, because that's when our guys start getting beat. It's hard enough to not get beat when you're doing all the right things. Forget about when you're being stupid. You can't ride talent. You got to develop talent, and that takes a full team of people.
So what are your thoughts on this is something, and it varies in certain geographic areas. I think it may be less of a cultural issue in your part of the country because of the density of gyms, like you were saying, but cross training, like that's something that is it's, I guess you could say, politicized, especially in certain jiu-jitsu circles. Like, hey, we don't cross train with that gym because they're from that association, and F that association. We don't go there because whatever.
I deal with this. I mean, it's awful. I look at Killer B as home base. I don't care where you go. We go where the work is. I have at a dozen places my guys will go to get work. I have heavyweights that go to certain places because there are heavyweights. I have lightweights that go to certain places because there are lightweights. We go where the work is. If you're 170 pounds and I don't have anyone near your weight, if I can't bring anyone in, I'm going to send you to my friend's place who has people for you to get rounds with. If you're out in the world getting better and you're bringing it back, I don't care. You're not stabbing me in the back by getting better. I'm stabbing you in the back if I'm not letting you evolve. If I'm holding you back because of loyalty, that's not loyalty. I'm telling you to be an obedient, subservient human being, and that's not fair. My job is to make you better. So if I don't have what you need here, what you need is to go somewhere else to cross train, because that's going to make you better. And I'm doing my job by sending you there. So I've been kicked out. I can't tell you, honestly, it's scary because my philosophy, what I just said, makes me more enemies than friends. I have certain gyms that don't let me go there because what I'm saying is dangerous in their mind, because they feel like if their students hear that, their students are going to feel like it's safe for them to leave, and they don't want their students to go other places. And it's absurd to me. It's absurd. It's a huge struggle that I have. I'm like, we don't own people, and our responsibility is to make them their best. And we have to do whatever it is we have to do to make them their best, or we don't, and whatever, then you have to go to sleep with that shit, not me.
Yeah.
I struggle with this a lot. Henzo's cool. Like Henzo Gracie, he doesn't care. He's like, hey man, you go wherever, you come, you train, whatever, he's good. He don't care. Like, I'm not a Henzo guy. I have no affiliation to anybody. I'm individual. I can do whatever I want. He respects the way we train. We're allowed to go wherever we want. As long as we're cool and we don't talk bad, we have no problems. He's game bred, and he likes to see game bred in people, and he respects that. The people that are political are the ones that fight over politics. I'm not political. I have certain gyms I prefer people not to go with because I don't like their instructors, and I know eventually they're going to try claim credit for things they didn't do, or try. I mean, I have 3 people in my gym that have been tried. Every gym in the area has tried to recruit them. They hop in on the DMs. You'd be better with us. My guys are like rolling their eyes going, come on, man. Really? You got to be grimy like that? But I got one guy in particular, no joke. If anybody pops up on a Instagram feed, if I tag them, within 24 hours, they get a DM like, hey, man, you ever think of coming and checking my place out? It's like, come on, man. That's not.
Dude, I've never once thought about messaging somebody to come to my gym. Wow.
No. I have one coach who keeps thinking I'm recruiting his people, and I'm like, I don't recruit. People call me. People see what I'm doing with my people, and they call me because they want that. And like, why are you going to get mad at me because your people are calling me because you're not doing your job? Don't get mad at me because you're not doing your job. Get mad at yourself. My dad told me something when I was a kid. I'll never forget it. My dad said, when someone tells you something and you don't like it, the only time you should ever get mad is if it's true. And you don't get mad at the person who said it. You get mad at yourself for allowing it to be true.
Wow.
So like if you're weak, someone goes, hey man, you're weak. I'm trying to use good language today. I usually curse like a mofo, so I'm trying to be nice. But if someone says a derogatory word that says maybe you're weak or soft or whatever, well, if you are, that's on you, not on them. They're just stating the obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's another great outlook, man. Yeah.
it just makes it a lot easier because accepting responsibility is way easier than standing around pointing the finger all day long. I feel like as a coach, it's my job to take all the blame and give away all the praise. You know, when my guys win, it's because they did a good job. When they lose, it's because I did the bad job. It's much easier that way because I don't want to be in an argument over who's right, who's wrong. I just want to win. I just want you to be better. And it's just like when I take that attitude, it takes 90% of the negative conversation away. You didn't do what I told you to do. I hate that. I hate that. You would have won if you listened. Well, maybe they would have listened if you communicated different. So instead of yelling at them, take responsibility for how you communicate.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you ever like want to, I mean, so you have people go cross train. Let's say one of those people's one of your top, 3 to 5 people you have in the gym competing, like, so, your guy in the UFC or something. Do you typically want to be there with them while they're cross training, sparring with other people, or no?
Well, Karl Roberson goes to one place to spar that I'm not allowed because the guy said I was recruiting his people, even though his people were all calling me because Karl tears through the room. And the only reason Karl goes is because there's a particular other big name fighter there and they've been sparring together forever. I'm not breaking that up. I'm not going to say you can't go there because I can't go. I'm like, yo, you got to go work with him because he needs you and you need him. Go get the work. Shawn goes down to Tom DeBlass's. I don't have, it doesn't work in my schedule. I see what he does when he comes back. I know what he's working on. Almost all my people go to get cage time over at Dante's. I go, every couple sessions, but my fighters in particular, we work every day but Sunday. 11 o'clock in the morning is pro practice, and you show up 5 to 6 times a week for pro practice. I see everybody every day, so I know exactly what's going on. Like, you can't come in, and if your jiu-jitsu is not getting better, you can't tell me you're going and working with Tom the Blast 3 times a week and your jiu-jitsu is getting worse. You can't tell me you're going to Rutgers Wrestling and your takedowns still suck. You're just not going, or you're not doing the right thing. I see what's going on. Because if you tell me you're going to work on something, well, I'm going to test it. I'm going to make sure. So that's the accountability side. A lot of times, here's the one thing where cross-training goes wrong. It's a lazy coach. So if I say to myself, okay, Shawn's going to Tom, so the jiu-jitsu's good, and then I just don't look at it, that's a problem. If I say Karl's going to spar, but then I don't see him do rounds for myself at a different point to judge where things are at, that's where it can go wrong. We can never just say, okay, they're going here, so they're good. We have to let them go and do stuff, but then we have to then take that stuff and put it into our overall game. That's why I'm the head coach. My job is to put all the pieces together. I don't just focus on one thing and then trust everything else is okay. It's trust but verify. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's the only time I feel like cross-training will go funky is when we just don't do the work to stay on top of, is there a progression? I see it all the time. But again, I also think that almost all coaches outside of the highest levels are riding talent instead of developing it. I think most people get somebody who's naturally gifted. They ride those natural gifts until they run out. And when they run out, they go find another talented guy. But that's my old cynical self speaking here. But you see it. How many times when you go to a tournament, you see a guy and you're like, I know he can't teach himself out of a paper bag, but he always has a revolving door of talent, but they all come from something else that they were naturally gifted, and they just push that talent out on the mat enough times to do some things. And for some reason, those guys tend to top out and then disappear. We all see it. It's in everything in every sport. To be a good coach, it's the one, it's like, oh, they're here every year with the same group that's expanding and everyone's doing better. It's not just, oh, that guy's super talented. Like, you have the jiu-jitsu school that has a high school wrestling coach as a best friend. And for 4 years, every year, they have a certain group of guys that do well on takedowns, like you have to develop that talent. And and when you're young and you start out, if you get in that cycle, it could eat you up, because the success of it on the short term, you just keep repeating that short-term success and you find a way to be happy on that. See, the key for me was I'm never happy. So I just keep driving. I'm always like, I never let myself get satisfied. I'm like, all right, we need more now. We got to do more now. We got to do the next challenge now. What can we do now? What's now? What's now? What's now? It's never, I don't talk about last year. I talk about today. So like Shawn Cage Fury, heavyweight champ. Okay, so what? Now he's in Bellator. He's a freshman in high school again. It's his first dance in Bellator. Okay, you had the belt. That was cool, but you're a freshman again. Let's start over. You'll be the champ in Bellator one day. Okay, what can we do next? Like, are you done? Okay, if you're done, well, then you're done, and the cycle's going to keep going with somebody else. But like, it's never over. When the challenge side of it's gone, you get complacent, and this career is going to hurt you. It's a dirty business, man. This is a brutal sport. If you don't have that challenge in you, somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Last question, Bryan. You've imparted a lot of knowledge. I've talked about everything I want to talk with you about today. Honestly, like this is all the stuff I was hoping that we could get into. So
no, it's been fun though. I enjoy these conversations.
Likewise. So like on these practices, like let's say your pro practice, for example, what's the length of that? Like how do you space like duration of training time? What do you use as appropriate?
It's a minimum of an hour. Usually practice ends up being about 2 hours, because I have to do work with each person individually over that time too. So the room trains as a group, but I break it up. So, okay. So say I had 6 people show up for practice this morning, and all 6 of them have fights coming up. So 5 people are warming up and I'm doing pad work with one guy. And then I rotate them into drills, and then I pull another guy off, and then I'm doing work with them. And then I pull 2 guys off and I'm doing work with them, and everybody so I'm looking at my window of time with them, and I say, okay, you're going to work consistently through this time, but I just make sure that everybody's gets 25, 30 minutes of me focusing on them and what they specifically need to do in that time. So that's the hardest part for me. Is like, okay, how are we everybody's got to get their work in, and everybody's got to get me time. That's just the way it is. It's that's the challenge. So it's I don't think there's a set formula to it, because I think it's a fluid situation. So like Teed's fighting next Thursday. He's fighting a guy who's finished all of his fights by submission. He tends to get cracked, and then he kind of figures out how to pull a takedown off, and he has a particular takedown he does. So today I took Jimmy Lawson, because Jimmy's takedowns are D1 level. So put the 2 of them, worked with them. We did like 3 rounds of working. I had other people on the bag. Then I said, okay, this is what I need to get across to you. Now I need you to just keep going over it. I'm going to come back to you again, make sure where we're at. Hop on the mat, did 3 5s with Karl Roberson on the pads, hopped off to the next person, watched them on the bag, 2 other people to go do some drills. Then I touch base with everybody, make sure, okay, where you at? Any questions? Anything we want to focus on? All right, where are you going tomorrow? Because tomorrow, float day, everybody pretty much goes to different spots for wrestling or sparring, and I'm traveling tomorrow. So I just had to make sure, like, okay, where are you going? And then a lot of my team's coming up to Bellator with me, because they're going to train with me in the practice room when Teed's resting. So we just keep the machine rolling along, because I'm in New Jersey. We're 3 hours away in Connecticut. So a lot of my guys are just going to hop up to Connecticut, get some work in with me, so we stay on point through this week. I come back Friday, and right back to it. I'll run pro practice on Friday and just keep the ball rolling. So in town, not in town, the work gets done. But when I'm in town, every day, got to deal with everybody. Last night I had to run there and late. I mean, I was on my phone last night. I had to drive like 45 minutes each way on something. And I basically spent the whole time, touch base with my wife, talk to my kids, then called literally every single fighter, going over, okay, this is where we're at this week. Where are you at? How's that? Questions. How's that injury? How's your body? How's your mom? it's a full commitment, man. Because fighting is not a physical thing as much as it's a mental thing. It's human interaction, and you got to make sure everybody's mentally prepared for the things they got coming up in their lives in line. So last thing I'm going to say, I was 27 and I went on a tear. I don't think I lost a fight for like a year and a half at that point. I was murdering people all over the place. And I had a fight, and my one of my better friends, and he was a coach. His name's Dane DeRose. He was my judo coach and my sambo coach. Just really good dude. He came up to me and he goes, "I got to talk to you." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "You haven't lost a fight in a long time, and you won some really big things, and you're feeling yourself right now." He goes, "But if you're a loser outside of that ring, nothing you do in it's ever going to make you a champion." And it was like this earth-shattering thing, because my life was a little chaotic. I was partying a little too hard, too many girls, too much liquor. My off time was fun. I was 27, top of the world, making good money, school's busy, cash in my pocket, driving a nice car, just doing what a dumb 20-something-year-old does. But he told me that, and I was like, wow. And he was like, "Look, man," he goes, "I don't want you to wake up at 35 with nothing but memories of what you did when you were 27. He said, "I want you to think about, what do you want at the end of this? When this is done, what do you want? And I want you to start building that now." And that just hit me so hard. And I told him to F off when he said it. But the next morning I woke up and I was like, that's probably the most sobering thing I've heard in a very long time. And it's never left me. And when people ask me, why do I do this? For some reason, that's the conversation that always comes back to me. So when you ask me, like, why do you do this? How do you do this? Dane's always talking in my ear, telling me, if you're a loser outside of the ring, no matter how many championships you win in it, you're still a loser. If you want to be a champ, you got to be a champ everywhere. You can't just compartmentalize that. You're either a winner or a loser. And winning is not about winning the fights. The winning part of it is, are you on track to create that life that you see for yourself or you want for yourself through this process? Don't burn everything down for momentary glory. It's got to be it's a long haul. So that was the moment that turned me from a meathead to a little bit more of a philosopher in how I approach this.
Yeah, no, that's a guy that I used to follow, Ken Pramola. He's actually been on the podcast, but he's jiu-jitsu black belt and wrestled at Iowa State. And it's like an attorney too. So he's a pretty smart guy. But I remember talking with him when I was in grad school, and I was like, man, I'm trying to win my first IBJJF medal, which I did. But he was like, I kind of laid my schedule out for him, running the gym, going to graduate school, getting a master's degree, relationships, trying to exercise, all of these things. He's like, well, sounds like you need to be the best at everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, that kind of always stuck with me, because I was like, man, I do have a lot going on. And I do, it was like a theme that I was always like trying to bring something up to par. I was scatterbrained at the time, and I was like, man, I just really do. I need to focus on making this a little better, and this a little better, and this a little better, and this a little better. And then before you know it, I was winning my medal, things were better. And I applied that philosophy moving forward,
Yeah, man, if you're going to make a commitment to do it, you might as well do it well. And if you're a trick we have that we allow ourselves to fail is that we create situations where we bite off more than we can chew, per se, because we're trying to create an excuse for ourselves. Oh, I failed because I was doing too much. No, man, you've got to, if you're going to do it all well. There's no excuse for it. Like you not winning. So say you don't win the medal. It's not because of the school. It's not because of anything. It's because you didn't win the medal. It's because you didn't do it that day. And you can't use anything as an excuse. You didn't show up. You didn't do it. You didn't show up every day to put the work in. If you really care about things and you prioritize them, you're good. But, I have a lot of things. I mean, I haven't even talked about everything I got. I mean, I have have a marketing company. I have a screen printing business. I have, 2 kids. I have a wife. I have a full school. I've got my pro team. I'm traveling all the time. And I just got done with a 5,000 t-shirt project that I promised to get done for a charity in 3 days. And, is what it is. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I slept a couple hours, the last 72 hours. But, again, like you just said, I made a commitment to do it. I'm going to do it all well. Didn't miss a single practice, didn't show up late, did everything I had to do. My privates got done. My classes got taught. My pros got trained. The rounds got put in and shirts got made. And my wife still had dinner with my family last night. It is what it is. You got to get it done.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been an inspiring conversation, Bryan.
It's been fun, man.
You've been somebody that is like, I've got this big list in my phone of podcast guests, and you've been somebody that's been on it because I'm like, man, I want to talk to this guy someday. And I just saw you post the other day, and I was like, I'm hitting him up right now.
Well, I hope I always said, like, I don't want to post differently than from who I am. So I'm hoping I live up to the stuff that caught your attention.
Well, isn't it crazy that you, like, that time when you were posting like 3 years ago or whatever you mentioned, that would have been when I saw you posting, and it's resulted in, since then I've started a podcast, and it's resulted in me in Arkansas having a conversation with you in New Jersey.
Hey, man. It is what it is. It's like, it's good. Like for me, again, I just hope that whoever someone thinks I'm representing myself as, I hope you understand it's not a front. This is really just me. So.
Well, man, I would definitely, I would say that's a fair assessment for sure. And just keep sending it out there, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. So.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. See you.
Bye. Peace.